we're on the same page. So I'd like to call the meeting to order, 6:30. And if I could ask Doug to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
All right. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. And can we have a roll call, please?
Yes, we have Commissioner John Corneau, Chair Matthew Johnston,
Here.
Vice Chair Clark Kramer,
Here.
Commissioner Gerald Abramson,
Here.
Commissioner Steve Tanhill,
Here.
Commissioner Sean Colvin, Commissioner Richard Wyatt,
Here.
Commissioner Mark McCamish,
Present.
Commissioner Douglas Tauber,
Here.
and Commissioner Shane Warburn. Okay, Commissioner Corneau, Colvin, and Warburn have been excused for tonight, but we do have a quorum.
Okay, are there any changes to the agenda? I do have a request to remove item A from the consent agenda. So we'll move item A off the consent agenda. So that leaves us one consent. Is there anything else on the agenda?
There are no other changes, and there was one public comment that was sent out and will be part of the packet and also sent to the commissioners. That's
Great.
it.
And good evening. Haven't said good evening to you yet. So good evening. So we will do that. We'll remove item A off the consent, and we'll address that first after the consent. And next we could go to the approval of the minutes from May 13th.
I make a motion we approve the amendment.
Madam Chair Johnston, so we'll hear the consent item 6A, we'll hear it after the last regular agenda item.
Can't we just do the consent? We could do the consent right as the first item. There's only two consent items, so it's
So the agenda states in the consent agenda that any item that's pulled from the consent agenda will be heard after the, will be heard last after the. last
the
reg-
item we removed is going to be last.
Correct.
That's
Yes.
yeah. Got
Yes,
it.
so
Good.
6A will be the last item we hear tonight.
Sounds fine.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we have a motion
To
for-
approve the
to
amendment.
approve the minutes. Do we have a second?
Second, Kramer.
A second. Any further discussion? All right, roll call.
Okay, we have Chair Johnston,
Approved.
Vice Chair Kramer,
Approved.
Commissioner Abramson,
Yes.
Commissioner Tanhill,
Yes.
Commissioner Wyatt,
Approve.
Commissioner McCamish,
Approved.
and Commissioner Tauber. Okay, and that motion passes unanimously 7-0.
All right, thank you. And staff, if you could review the public comment for the record.
Okay, to the members of the public who wish to address the commission tonight with live public comments on any agenda item, please visit airports.venturacounty.gov meeting calendar for participation instructions, streaming links, meeting IDs, and passcodes. In-person speakers will be called upon first, followed by remote participants. Speakers will be called to speak after the agenda item is presented. For in-person public comment, please fill out a speaker card and submit it to the secretary before the end of the public comment period. For remote participants via Zoom or telephone, please accept the prompt to be promoted to speaker and unmute your mic when it's your turn to speak. Members of the public are allotted 3 minutes per speaker per listed agenda item at a single meeting, unless the time allotment is increased or decreased by the chair, depending on the number of speakers. Please use your time accordingly.
Okay.
And we do have one public comment.
All right.
And Mr. Sullivan, you have 3 minutes to speak. Your time will begin when you start speaking.
Yes, I want to comment on 7D on the development project by Air 7.
All right, Mr. Sullivan, we can, so this is for general comment at this time. So if you want to speak during item 70, we're just going to ask you to hang on just for a little bit until we get to that.
Very well. I wasn't sure from the instructions.
No worries. Thank you.
Yeah, and I'm not aware of any comments. Do you have any of the cards?
No, we do not.
Okay. I'll just remind the audience, if you do wish to make public comment, please complete one of the comment cards and provide it to staff so that we're aware that you wish to make comment. And thanks, Mark, for being patient with us until we get to 7. All right, so moving on to, we have one consent item. So item B. So do we have a motion and a second to approve the consent item or any discussion?
Only the motion to approve the consent item, please.
Second, McCammon.
Motion second, any further discussion? All right, no further discussion. Roll call, please.
For the record, there's no public comment.
Thank you.
We have Chair Johnston.
Yes.
We have Vice Chair Kramer.
Yes.
We have Commissioner Abramson,
Yes.
Commissioner Tanhill,
Yes.
Commissioner Wyatt,
Yes.
Commissioner McCamish,
Yes.
and Commissioner Tauber.
Yes.
Okay, and that motion passes unanimously 7-0.
Thank you. And thank you for holding me accountable to those public comments. I'll get back on it again tonight. All right, regular agenda item 7A.
I'll do quick introductions. Every year we invite Wings Over Camarillo to kind of give an overview of the upcoming air show. So tonight we have Bill Thomas, the air boss, and Bob Trimborn, Director of Operations for Wings Over Camarillo. Going to give a quick overview, I believe, of the 45th Wings Over Camarillo Air Show. Thank you, gentlemen.
Good evening, Commission. My name is Bob Trimborn. I'm the Director of Operations for the Wings Over Camarillo Air Show. We are celebrating our 55th anniversary of the event. And let's see if I can make this work. So it's a labor of love, to say the least. There's a tremendous volunteer team that pulls this whole air show together every year. We actually start the process in January, and so we're about 6 weeks out. And so this year, we're going to kind of go over the theme of the event and how we got to where we are today. So here's a picture of the event. This was taken about 3 years ago. It's a lot different. Well, not a lot, but it's significantly changed in some regards. You can see the aircraft along one side where the performer aircraft, and then the tie down aircraft where the display aircraft in the center of the event. The Camarillo Wings Association is our parent organization. We work at their behest. I work for the chair, John Lowe, of the CWA. And the mission is to promote youth in science and aviation, furthering the education of Ventura County youth through leadership and service. And the most important thing on this slide is that $813,000 number. And that's how much money our organization has given back to the community, to those nonprofits that help support the event. We're the largest nonprofit in the county as far as giving back to the community. So we're approaching $1 million return. Generally, we take the revenues come in from sponsorships and ticket sales. We use it to, of course, run the air show, fund the air show. At the end, we take half that cash and give it back to the community, and half stays in the kitty for next year's event. So what do? So we preserve our aviation history. So the schools don't really teach the history of aviation anymore. And so our air show is a way of teaching the kids that aviation is more than just a waiting room at an airport or the tube that you sit in to get to your destination. So the air show provides that context to the aviation that kids experience when they fly on the airline. We remember our veterans. That's part of our event. And this year we're going to have World War II veterans at the event. Again, we're trying to inspire the youth into aviation. We showcase unique piloting skills through flybys and aerobatics activity. We share our aviation passion. That's our team is very passionate about aviation. We educate the community on the value of this airport, and we provide displays and recruiting venues for the military sponsors and venues. So this theme, the theme this year is the 90 years of the DC-3. So 90 years ago, this year is when the DC-3 entered service It's hard to believe the aircraft was conceived at Douglas Aircraft in Santa Monica, and it became one of the most consequential aircraft ever to exist. In fact, there's more DC-3s flying today than any of the Douglas aircraft ever made. So that's how amazing that aircraft is. And they're still modifying them. They put turboprops on them. They still fly around, and the chair has one in his livery. Our Grand Marshal this year is Patrick Warburton. He's a celebrity. If you ever go to flying over California or America at Disney California Adventure, he's the voice you hear. So here's our major elements: the air show, the car show, the STEM pavilion, which is sold out every year. We have tremendous displays there. We have the veterans hangar with 3 to 4 World War II vets that will be there this year. Many exhibitors, lots of aircraft displays. We have all kinds of vendors, sponsors, volunteers, parking, and a great car show. I kind of skipped over that. About 250 cars are on display during the event, along with about 60 airplanes that are also there. And we also use pyrotechnics to help kind of simulate aircraft fly-ons and bombing runs. So we have STEM Pavilion, pictures of it there. Here's some of the air show performers. Again, DC-3 is what we're showcasing this year. These are some of the aircraft that will fly. 2026, again, participating aircraft. Well, we're gonna have about 60 or so.
52 flying and another probably 15 or 20.
Here's the car show parade. Car show's static. That's my little green truck in lower right-hand corner. Again, the hangar, well, the veterans hangar will have World War II vets, Korean vets, Vietnam vets. They'll be there sharing their stories with the community on their service to our country. And there's a picture of a flyby with the pyrotechnic wall of fire going at the same time. So we hope to see you out there at the event. We get around 8,000 to 10,000 people a day. And it's a family-oriented event. We're the second largest event in the county, behind the fair, of course. And we've been going for 45 years. So it's amazing testament to the dedication of our team to put on the best event we possibly can. So Bill and I are here to answer any questions you might have about this year's 45th anniversary event.
What are the big changes we can expect to see this year?
Well, probably worth the DC-3.
We'll have about
Six of them.
6 of them on display.
Wow.
Yeah, so 6 out of the remaining group.
With all of the uncertainty as far as the Middle East, I've had pretty low military guarantees, but I do believe that I'll have at least one not too rotation from some of them. And not flying instead. Still working on some of the marine. I haven't noticed on C-17s all could be going back and forth to the Marine, so it's a, but even ask. So we'll get C-30 and D-3 problems and point of view, but not.
A lot of the military aircraft are literally the week before the event will get noticed that they'll be there. Because you just never know. You just never know what their duties are.
Mr. Thomas, if you wouldn't mind speaking into the microphone so we can capture the audio for those online.
Sorry, the E2 squadron that's on the Abraham Lincoln was scheduled to do a high-speed flyby, but the Abraham Lincoln has been sequestered into the Middle East and Indian Ocean. So they said, we're not going to be back. They've been 10 months and have had 2 Liberty calls.
I want to also take an opportunity, because this commission, reaches out, hears from the public. We represent different regions of our community, and this show could not happen with the number of volunteers that come from all over the community, inside Ventura County and even outside Ventura County, that have interest in this great little show that happens here in our community. So Please give our best to all the volunteers that make this happen. You guys are volunteers and the whole operations and board. There's a lot of work that goes into these air shows. I have the privilege of being able to attend ICAST with Bill every year, so I get to see the behind the scenes, and had the opportunity to serve on the board there for many years. But thanks for everything you guys are doing, and it's just a great thing for the community.
Well, thank you.
It takes about 400 volunteers for the weekend and the day or two before and day or two after, just to give you a feel for how many.
I do want to put a quick plug for the STEM Pavilion, because that is such a great part of this air show, which has kind of evolved over time. And now, sometimes there's robotics things, there's local schools that have aviation clubs that are there, junior ROTCs that come in. Anyway, just if you haven't been to the STEM Pavilion, which is the FAR CAF hangar, it's really neat to see the engagement with the youth and like all the different things that are going on in the local schools that are happening, local clubs. Anyway, just every year I go into the STEM Pavilion, and it really warms my heart, because I think that's really taking aviation, showing it to the next generation, and they can kind of find the piece of it, whether it's drones or robotics or some of the simulators. Anyway, it's really, really neat. If you haven't had a chance to check that part of the air show out, if you're looking up next time, get a little early and go to the STEM Pavilion and check that out. It's pretty neat. So thank you.
2 years ago, we had the engineering demonstrator for the helicopter that flew on Mars. We had the actual engineering replica of the aircraft that flew on Mars. So you never know what you're going to see in the STEM Pavilion. It's really exciting.
Great. Do we have any public comments?
No, for the record, there's no public comments on item 7A.
All right. Thank you, gentlemen. If there's no further comments from the commission, we'll move forward to, that's just a receive and file. We'll move forward to item B. Near and dear to my heart, I think.
Hey, good evening, commissioners. My name is Lisette Kennel. Our communications and engagement manager is not able to attend tonight, Jeanette Haregi, so I'll be presenting her agenda letter on her behalf. In the mid-1930s, the Douglas Aircraft Company designed an aircraft unlike any others, with a goal of changing the landscape of aviation for both commercial and military use forever. The DC-3 made its debut over Cloverfield in Santa Monica, California in December of 1935. And by 1936, the aircraft had become part of the United Airlines and American Airlines fleet, offering passengers an elevated level of comfort, speed, and reliability. By 1939, the DC-3 was converted for military use for World War II efforts both stateside and overseas. Most popularly known as the C-47, the aircraft carried troops, cargo, and also provided medical evacuations, playing a significant role for the Allied forces. With fewer than 200 DC-3s and C-47s still flying, it has become more and more challenging to keep the history of the aircraft alive. An even greater challenge is making it feasible to have the aircraft accessible to the public. But that's exactly what Access Air is doing. Based at Oxnard Airport, Access Air is a fixed base operator providing fuel services, hangar space, and more to aircraft throughout Ventura County and beyond. In May of 2025, one of the few remaining DC-3s came to call Oxnard Airport home, owned by DC-3 Mainline LLC, operated by California Aeronautical University, CAU, and based at Access Air. The DC-3 Mainliner O'Connor is slated to offer Ventura County residents and anyone visiting the area with the opportunity to not only see the aircraft up close, but also board a scenic flight. The history of the Mainliner O'Connor is especially unique. Built in the fall of 1945 as a C-47, the aircraft was quickly declared surplus and never made it overseas, at least not for war. Instead, it was sent to the American Embassy in Lima, Peru, in November of 1945 and returned to the United States in 1950 after being purchased by the Standard Steel Spring Company in Pennsylvania. By 1971, the aircraft was acquired by the state of Georgia and was used to transport high-profile individuals, including then Governor Jimmy Carter, through 1975. Beginning in 1984, the aircraft transitioned through several private ownerships until finally it settled in the hands of Clay Lacy. a former United Airlines pilot and aviation enthusiast who named the aircraft the DC-3 Mainliner O'Connor. Lacey fully restored the aircraft and had it painted with authentic United Airlines colors and branding. Now in his 90s, and after connecting with Matt Johnston at CAU and Access Air, it seemed only fitting that the aircraft set out on a new journey with the purpose of entertaining, but primarily educating people of all ages about the golden age of aviation. How can the public learn more? This year's Wings Over Camarillo Air Show is celebrating 90 years of the DC-3, and the DC-3 Mainliner O'Connor will be on site at the show for public view. From there, Johnson and his team will begin working to establish a program that will make flights aboard the DC-3 accessible to the public by purchase of a ticket for a scenic flight. Ventura County residents can expect to see the aircraft flying periodically over Ventura County, a requirement to keep the aircraft operational. The Ventura County Department of Airports, in partnership with Access Air, will be sharing information related to flights aboard the DC-3 once it's available. To learn more, visit dc3mainliner.org.
Great, thank you. Obviously, I have a bias for that review and file when the timing for the DC-3 and the 90th year anniversary. So we're just fortunate to have that here in Ventura County, and working with the Department of Airports, they've got some ideas for how we can expose not only youth, but also leadership in Ventura County to aviation. And, we want to let the community know that, that aircraft is going to work to serve, to educate, and, inspire. And I want to thank everybody that showed up a couple weeks ago to the kind of grand arrival of the plane to Oxnard. So thank you for the report and giving it attention. And I think this year's air show is going to be pretty unique to see the number of DC-3s all in one place here on our ramp. So thank you for that. Any further comments from the council or commission?
And then for the record, there is no public comment on item 7B.
All right, so we move on to item 7C. Thank you.
Chair and commissioners, I want to give an update. You've heard from us over the last 3 years, and in particular, last year and a half of the process to develop Area 805. That is a play on Area 51's, the military's test facility, Area 805, obviously our area code. So let's run through what all of that is. Most of you probably don't know that if you wanted to test an aircraft, a drone, you need FAA approval to do so. That's a certificate of authorization, COA, to go do that. And these are the original, back in 2012, test ranges that were designated by the FAA. So there was originally 7 of them. We're missing one on this slide, but there were 7 of them originally. And then they added a few more in those processes. So we've partnered with University of Alaska Fairbanks, one of those designated facilities, to be basically a satellite test range because of our open airspace between Oxnard and the water and just south of Santa Barbara Airport. A lot of open space. That was a good opportunity to kind of create that space. Companies in Southern California, are going out of state right now, Utah and Oregon, to do that testing. There is no test range in United States, in California. There is Monterey area has a smaller one, no airport tied to it. So it was a unique opportunity for us to go and get this approval to do this. Again, these are part of University of Alaska Fairbanks and other facilities. I was a part of that up when I worked in Contra Costa County more than 5 years ago, developing a small on-airport site that was kind of just within the boundaries. So we were going a little bigger in Area 805 to be about 500 square miles. And we received finally that approval May 6th of this year. But here's the test sites that kind of exist right now, the 9 test sites kind of spread out across the United States. And here in Ventura County, we've partnered with other entities that are doing some of the similar work where we're in a unique position because the Navy's two largest test ranges, Point Mugu Air Sea Test Range off the coast, 36,000 square miles of space. And then inland is China Lake, which is about 19,000 square miles. So we kind of sit in between that. But you can't go as civilian onto those test ranges. You need to be a military contractor to get access. So we're kind of providing a civilian option for that. That is what the design is. We've got entities that are doing development at Oxnard Airport that will kind of attract, and provide hangar space and office space for some of those new developments. So that helps the county attract new technology, those higher paying jobs, things like that. And we're also sitting in a nice position, not only the testing that's going on, but we have some events that are happening in the LA area. Obviously, we had World Cup currently going on, but Super Bowl happens in 2027 and the Olympics in 2028. So those are, aside from the testing opportunities that I talked about with Area 805, eVTOL, electric vertical and takeoff, air taxis, which have already started in other parts of the country and overseas, that you're going to see more of, particularly probably during the Olympics. We've got one company that's already Archer that has secured the rights with a local airport, Torrance Airport, to kind of make that their main hub during the Olympics. So others will follow suit. It's going to be many years for that to take effect in seeing this monetized and you be able to schedule something, but you will see it start, at least locally, probably around the time of the Olympics. But you can see we're in a great proximity between, Ventura County sits between Santa Barbara Airport, Burbank, and LAX. A great opportunity and a great range for these new technologies to air taxi our members, community members to those airports, and saving a lot of time. If you needed to go to LAX at 7 or 8 o'clock in the morning, you would probably allow several hours to make it through traffic and all of that. These vehicles would do that in 15 minutes. And that's the advantage of this kind of technology. So here again is Area 805. It's about 500 square miles, mostly over open water airspace. They follow the same rules as aircraft. It's seen, avoid. We would expect 1 to 3 operations a day kind of thing. So this isn't hundreds or many aircraft on a particular day. It's like a Cessna 172 flying in this airspace. It's the same kind of thing. So the next steps and the final steps, we've got FAA approval. Again, we fall under the umbrella of University of Alaska Fairbanks. We're expecting they come out sometime in August and stand up our team to do the review and the paperwork process for entities that want to come and do some of that verification flying in the airspace. So we expect in the next 60 to 90 days that we might start that kind of testing. We've done, over the last year and a half, Jeanette's done some great flyers, information. We'll be updating some of these flyers, what the information is, what people can expect in this new opportunity in Area 805. One of the great examples, we were able to attract a new company called Swarm Aero, that was 3 years ago looking at placing their new facility, their startup company that does autonomous aircraft flying. They were deciding between Texas and California. We made our pitch. They came to Oxnard Airport again in 2023 with 8 employees. Jeanette and I just met with them a couple weeks ago at Oxnard Airport. They have 90 employees right now, and they just got their second round of funding. And they expect by the end of the year, end of 2027 to be at 200 employees, and by the end of 2030 to be at 400 employees. That's a success story, bringing those, again, good paying jobs, locally to the county, but that technology. And we want to replicate that, 100 times over with new companies coming in to Ventura County. So that's kind of it. I'm ready for any questions that you might have.
Just a quick question, or maybe it's not a quick question, but I know there's a lot of benefit to the whole community, right? Bringing and attracting some of these employers that then feed the community as a whole. What do you see the economic benefit specifically to the kind of having budgetary impacts to the airports? I mean, you've got lease tenants like of Swarm Aero but
So it's multiple levels of economic impact to the county and to the airport enterprise fund directly. Obviously the jobs and economic income that come with bringing those kind of jobs to the county are important. Specifically to the airport, it's that new development that we talked about, urban air mobility, filling up those hangars and office space. Those translate into rent revenue to the airport enterprise fund. But it also goes down to the fee structure we charge to use the airspace. So we have board approval to charge $1,500 a day per testing entity, $6,000 a week. That might seem like a lot of money until you, again, the military facilities, if you needed to go to Point Mugu or China Lake, it can be as high as $89,000 a day. Again, you need to be a military contractor to even get on those, and the wait can be 6 months to get in line because of the backlog on the military side. So all of those are revenue potentials for us that we expect to benefit countywide.
thanks.
That's great to hear. Keith, I have a question. As we look down the road, and if we are at the Olympics and we're starting to see some eVTOL, where do you see those flights happening to and from? Will they use Oxnard? Will they use Camarillo? And if they do not, like I'm thinking about Simi Valley, if you're in Simi Valley, you want to go to LAX, are you going to come all the way out to Oxnard? Maybe, maybe not. If it goes somewhere else, is that somehow become part of the airport's world, or is that just completely outside of our purview if that were to
You're
happen?
talking in an area that the FAA hasn't figured out, yes, is how they integrate all of that into, they have their hands full with the existing airspace and controlling aircraft and all of that. So my prediction and expectation is that they will start with existing airports because that infrastructure and routes and all of that already exist. The dream of many of these eVTOL companies is that someday an eVTOL lands in your driveway and picks you up and flies you. Well, the complexity of doing that all over, say, a city and integrating all of that airspace is unbelievably complex. Again, as I mentioned, they have their hands full just right now with what exists. So that may happen 50 years from now, maybe.
Right.
But I would suspect as this is ramping up for the next several decades, that it will be airport to airport. And the infrastructure exists with all the small airports, regional airports that exist already. So, and you look at Ventura County, wherever you are in the county, coming to one of these two airports, to answer your question, I think both airports would fit their model. We obviously at Oxnard have a nice big empty terminal. That's where we would encourage the starting point, but I could see some of our fixed base operators accommodating those services as well, potentially with ramp and lounges and restrooms and things like that exist.
If someone did, as an interim step, say, they want to put a heliport in, I don't know, Simi Valley, if there were a spot, would they turn to us for our expertise and infrastructure and talent to manage that for them? And would that make sense, or would it just be outside of DOA?
I'll just point to what typically happens. There are heliports in the county. Heliports are actually governed by Caltrans, Division of Aeronautics in the state, need to go through reviews and approvals. So those do exist. Private owners have, helicopter landing pads because they got to do obstruction analysis and other things. Obviously at hospitals, you have heliports.
Okay.
Good point. Yeah, I wouldn't expect that airports takes over all these various and manages that. That's really not how it works now, and I probably wouldn't. Again, I would see them starting with airports because there are enough small airports throughout the country to kind of manage that infrastructure already. Parking exists, open space, clear zones, and all the analysis for taking off and landing have already been done and proven. That's likely where they would start.
Thank you.
I have a question concerning the altitudes on the restricted area. I was looking on the map and I didn't see it. Is it from surface to 10,000 feet or what?
Surface to 7,500 feet outside of the fast delta airspace. If I can go back. Maybe. So surface to 7,500 feet outside the class delta airspace. Yes,
Are they gonna have a ADSB or?
they're not
Required?
required in that area. And actually, oddly enough, these test aircraft are not allowed to have ADSB at this point. That's an FAA mandate that they not be allowed to have it. Not required in this airspace at sea and avoid. That's how it stands right now.
Two questions. One's a statement, just in case you're wondering what eVTOL means, because it is actually an acronym of it's an electric vertical takeoff and landing. So that's kind of it's not a helicopter. It's kind of more like it's a small vertical takeoff and landing like an Osprey. Yeah. But anyway, just in case anybody was wondering if you ever hear that word, that's what it means for the eVTOL specifically. But this one, back to Area 805, it's not eVTOL exclusive, right? We're talking about anything unmanned. Could be a drone, could be a fixed wing drone, could be an eVTOL style drone, could be any of those things.
Right.
And it's all, the idea is that it is focused on the unmanned portion of this with a control station and all those things down, right?
Right. So it's the terminology these days is uncrewed aircraft, but that means is somebody is on the ground, somebody's in a chase plane, somebody's in a chase boat, operating it from afar, but under that control.
And will the airspace work with a NOTAM, like in the sense of, kind of like we if you're doing paradrops or even like the restricted areas when they're active, will that be NOTAMized and put out that, hey, it'll be from this date and time, these will be used?
That is part of the process. Again, it is not restricted airspace.
Right.
It is shared airspace.
Unlike the military, which is restricted.
Right. But it is part of the requirement for the COA is when it's active and somebody's operating in it, that we issue a NOTAM advising pilots of uncrewed operations happening in that vicinity.
The testing that's occurring out like over Palmdale Lancaster, is that a test area like Area 805? Because we've been asked to contract for following drones and stuff out there and keep visual on them and things.
Is that the China Lake area?
That's what I guess I don't know where how far down the China
Yeah,
Lake one
it's
goes. It could be.
19,000 square miles, so I couldn't tell you exactly.
Just curious.
And that's a good question because there are, this COA process, Chair Johnson, if you had an aircraft and you wanted to go test it, you could go through the COA process just for you and your airplane and go get approval in a particular area to go to testing. The difference, and as I mentioned, our process has been 3 years in the planning and the last 17 months of approval with the FAA doing their analysis, make sure it was safe in the area that we're proposing. The test range is different in that, you would have to go through that 17-month process to go get approval. That's just for you. The test range now allows us, because the analysis has been done, and we've partnered with Aero Environment, a company that's in the county, well known. But the next person, if Keith comes with his airplane, now that the analysis has been done for Aero Environment, now my aircraft can piggyback on all that work that's done. And it's not another 17+ month process. It can be, a couple weeks or 30 days to get that through the process and allow me to go fly. And let me be clear, when we say testing, there is rigorous process and analysis before you get into that airspace. It isn't, hey, let's just slap some things together and see if they fly. You have to do hover ground testing, cage testing. It's tethered to the ground, all of that analysis before you get to that point that you can actually do confirmation testing in the airspace.
Just for Matt, your information, the restricted airspace is out of Edwards Air Force Base. It's basically the 14 and it runs up towards China Lake.
I'm familiar with the restricted airspace. We've been asked to chase outside of the restricted airspace, and I was just wondering where that fell.
One last question. It kind of goes back to that map that you had or the chart, which is so you have the area. It looks like it kind of encompasses the class delta of Oxnard. Is the idea that it would be, I mean, the access to it, you wouldn't have to necessarily access it from Oxnard, but it is the way that looks, it kind of is, I mean, obviously we have the red line that goes around, which mirrors the class delta.
Another great question. So many of the folks that need to do the testing don't actually need a runway. We do encompass the Oxnard Airport to allow that. We are in the process of securing various properties along the coast so that folks could just shoot immediately from the edge of the coast and do testing out over the water. Yes.
It's an interesting swath of land there because I can tell you, me and others, we were encountered that little cruise up the coast at, 1,500 to 2,500 feet is pretty popular on the weekends. So we might want to communicate with local pilots about, those activities. We can NOTAMs and all that.
We will do that for sure. No question about it. And continue to do so.
All right. If there's no other comments, thank you for all that information. It's very educational, helpful for us and the community. So we'll just receive and file that. And are there any public comments?
No, for the record, there is no public comments on item 7C.
Just beat you that one. Thank you. We'll move on to item D.
Good evening, Chair Johnston, Commission members, Aaron Powers, Deputy Director with the airports. This evening, I will be kicking off a presentation that I will be sharing with Keith Freitas, our Director of Airports, regarding the Camarillo request for proposals. I wanted to first just start off with a slide that shows the general locations of the two development proposals we put out a request to receive submittals on. The location one included a 4.1 acre redevelopment site that currently has 49 smaller general aviation hangars on the site. And the request for proposal offered the opportunity to repair the existing hangars. If they chose to do something else, then we had identified a 5-acre parcel that is available over in the northeast hangar development area to replace those hangars. And then we had location 2, which included a 1.9 acre redevelopment site. And for each of these developments, we received a total of 4 proposals, one for the 1.9 acre site. And that was from Orbic Helicopters, who was ranked the top proposer. And then for the 4.1 acre redevelopment site, Air 7 was ranked the top proposer for that development. Tonight's presentation focus is really just a recap of the RFP open house that we held in June. And we also wanted to include a review of some key RFP information, as this has been a item of great interest for the community and our other stakeholders. So we will cover various areas, including how we got here, the department's current efforts to address noise concerns, the request for proposal process, an RFP scoring criteria, including a little bit of a deeper dive than we had at the open house. Next steps, and then we will also end with a FAQ about a lot of the information that's out there where there's some misinformation, and we just want to set the record straight. So on June 16th, a few weeks ago, following the March public meetings where each of the 4 proposers were invited to share their RFP and their development concept, airport staff recognized that the meetings ran long and that some of the members of the public actually left before they may have been able to make public comment or ask additional questions. So after the selection committee ranked the proposals, which was based only on the submission that was submitted in February in response to the official request for proposal, the airport held an open house as a slightly less formal format than a Brown Act meeting to facilitate another opportunity for the public to be able to get questions answered and also to introduce the top ranked proposals. A few meeting highlights is that we ended up having approximately 68 members of the public attend the meeting. We did have another 15 to 20 folks here that was mostly made up of airport staff, the top ranked proposals, and then we also had some interested members of the commission and the airport authority join us that evening as well. The meeting itself ran about 2.5 hours. Staff had a presentation that ran just under 40 minutes. And then we had a solid hour and 45-minute session where we answered questions and we just stayed until there were no more questions asked. At the open house, and it's important enough that we felt like we wanted to reiterate some of this information. We talked about the RFP process and how this really started back multiple years ago with the airport master plan process in 2020. And then we had kicked that process off. There were concerns from the community at the time about noise, but also about the use of the airport, that somehow that might change from the agreement that we had with the city and the understanding that the community had with the county about how the airport would operate. And so we pivoted to an airport layout plan update. And in that process, those were that allowed us to talk about our governing that was our planning studies, which was the foundational documents for this RFP process. But we also had we were able to explain about our governing documents and how that really set the obligations of the airport and how those obligations fed into this process. And it also, over the last 3 years, we were able to receive robust feedback from members of the public. At the outset of each of the planning studies for the ALP update, the noise study that we kicked off, our approach and procedures analysis study, and even here tonight, we always like to bring up the 1976 agreement, the joint powers agreement between the city of Camarillo and the county. This is a cornerstone of how we operate the airport. And we wanted to make sure that, that the public understands that we are, we weren't looking at any changes to the current role of the Camarillo Airport, that we would stay a general aviation airport with no large cargo operations. We would not be looking to increase the runway length beyond the 6,000 feet that it is, and that we would have no commercial service at Camarillo Airport. The airport operates under a set of obligations, and it begins with the deed in 1977 when the federal government deeded the facility to the county, and we became obligated to treat all the aviation users fairly and equitably. And that pretty much means we can't say yes to only big jets. We can't say yes to only small airplanes or single engine piston airplanes or helicopters. We also can't say no. We have to, and we also are required to meet the demand of the airport. In fact, part of the deed, if you page through it, says that if we don't follow our obligations, the federal government can give us 60 days notice and take back the airport. Additionally, we have grant assurances that come with obligations. Our most recent grant that we accepted was last year for the Camarillo runway improvement that will be coming for under construction is anticipated in 2027. And with those grant assurances come 20 years of obligations. I mentioned earlier that we had going back to the very beginning was really talking about that master plan update that we started, and then we pivoted to an ALP update. Part of those obligations require that we maintain an airport master plan, and that master planning document identifies near and long-term facility and maintenance requirements based on forecasted demand. The last full master plan was completed in 2011. To meet our obligations, we needed to update that plan because we had run the course of the facility improvements identified in that plan. And so that's when we kicked off that 2020 update. We were able to pivot based on the concerns of the community to an airport layout plan, which is really just a smaller portion of a master plan. It doesn't look at the role of the airport. What it focuses on is really the facility requirements, maintenance, and what that demand looks like into the near, mid, and long term, going out about 20 years. Additionally, when we were working to look at the master planning, we heard a lot from the community about noise. And so we were fortunate that we were able to get the FAA to provide us with a grant, and we were able to secure a grant for a little over $700,000 to conduct a noise study here for Camarillo Airport. And the goal for the airport was really we were listening to the community. We wanted to make sure that everyone was being heard, so that as we're planning for the future, we're looking at the noise concerns. We're looking at where those noise contours fall and what that looks like in the long-term planning horizon. And that brings us, I wanted to, thank you. As part of our airport layout plan update, when you're looking at facility needs, you're looking at, design concepts and preferred alternatives. And so as part of that process, that was, I apologize. As part of that process, the airport layout plan update identified, the future anticipated hangars in the northeast hangar development. It also identified aging infrastructure in the dark purple and the potential to redevelop. And then the area that is sort of a light blue along the south, it just reserved it as something called aeronautical reserve, which identifies that this is for aviation use. And then, and that's different than south, anything outside of the blue here. South of that is really our landside development that doesn't need to be aeronautical. And so these plans all together really laid the foundation when we received FAA approval after a 3-year process of the airport layout plan update in 2025. That's when we kicked off and issued the RFP. So this is one of my favorite slides. I know that many of you may have seen it before, but what it is, it's a little bit of a list of some of the items that the airport is already doing to address noise concerns. I'm going to run through it, but it's really just, it's an idea of what we're already doing, but it really enforces our commitment to, this isn't a one-time, one and done. We are committed to continuous improvement. And most of these efforts here, I think, reflect that. So the department, shortly after Director Freitas joined the department, he recognized that the airport didn't really have a great way of, or even a dedicated way of addressing noise concerns or communications about the airport. We weren't really good about sharing stories about ourselves or getting out critical information. And so he authorized the hiring of a communications and engagement manager. We've also, with that hiring, we were able to expand and enhance our public outreach and communication. We implemented the Fly Friendly BC noise program. We also purchased noise flight tracking and comment software. I don't know if any of you have used it. We call it VNOMS. It's available on our website. So if anyone has a concern about an aircraft flying, they can on our website, it's right up front. They can file a noise comment. It will take them and they'll be able to check out the aircraft flying in the air if it's, although there's a little bit of a lag time for safety, but they can also submit online or call and leave a noise comment. So that's helped us to better track and then also be able to potentially identify aircraft operations and match them up with the noise comments so that if there are actions we can take to address an issue that is within our control, we can try to take those actions or those steps. We also hold regular meetings and updates with the city of Camarillo to make sure that we are working in partnership and regarding the airport operations. And after kicking off the Fly Friendly VC noise program, which is mostly focused on smaller aircraft operations, that started over at Oxnard Airport, where for Oxnard Airport, the main concern was the smaller aircraft. For Camarillo Airport, we heard more about the jet noise. We actually expanded the Fly Friendly to include jet-specific information. We also updated the ATIS, which I apologize, I have forgotten what those letters stand for, but essentially it is a message that pilots can call into to learn about the conditions, any special instructions before they head towards our airport. And then we also, in the chart supplement, We've included information for preferred runway use, our preferred runway use program, which essentially is runway 8 when possible, when winds are calm. And we also expedited evaluation of the alternative approach courses and glide paths. We spent, we initiated a study for a little over $300,000 to look at the approach and departure surfaces of runway 826 to see if there were any enhancements we can make, because we don't believe that there's any silver bullet here that will solve the concerns of everyone, but we do believe that cumulatively that we can make an impact. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Keith.
Aaron, thank you very much. And for those non-pilots, Automated Terminal Information System is the ATIS designation. So the RFP process, I want to make it clear that this process and the things you're seeing are not normally shared through the process, in the sense that, we issue an RFP and then nothing happens because we're doing all this internal things, reviewing, ranking, negotiating a lease until we spit out, and we'd normally come back to the AAC and Airport Authority and then the board with a final draft lease. But in an effort to be more transparent, that's all of the things kind of that you're going to see described as discussed tonight are opening that curtain to kind of what the process looks like as we go through. So, and I won't lie that has caused a lot of turmoil because of misinformation and things that have been put out there through the process. But again, our efforts are trying to be transparent, and that's what you're gonna see here. So multiple years you heard Aaron talk about, all of the airport layout plan process, the noise studies. In those are forecasts of future demand. So that's kind of where it all started. In the middle of that, about 2 years ago, we had a couple tenants interested in the 1.9 acres and the 4.1 acres. We shut them down and said, put that on hold because we're in the middle of an airport layout plan process analysis and noise studies. So until we're done with those, we won't entertain your desire to do some improvements. So that's the studies. We had the notification RFP process. We brought that through the AAC and Airport Authority. We developed the criteria for the RFP, the things we would evaluate proposers on, and then we issued the RFP. So here's the things, all of the things we go through. You will hear, you have seen emails flying and comments. This is the best proposal. These are stakeholders that like a particular proposal because it meets their needs the best. I understand that, if this stakeholder has this desire, this proposal fit there the best. What you see up here is our impossible task with the county department airport staff of trying to balance all of our stakeholders' desires, wants, needs. So this is just to put a few of them: Airport Enterprise Fund, New Aviation Services, neighbors that are concerned about jet aircraft, airport revenue, environmental concerns, county sustainability goals, displacement of GA hangars, nonprofit education space concerns, community benefits, job creation, tenant development, neighborhoods that are concerned about small aircraft, aging infrastructure, economic development, neighbors concerned about helicopters and GA hangar rents. Again, those are just a few of our stakeholders and their concerns. In this next slide, maybe. Right. Good. In this next slide, I'll just take a few of the key stakeholders and their desires. Again, community. If you talk Old Town, they're concerned about jets, don't necessarily care about small airplanes. But if you're up north of the airport, it's Spanish Hills. We don't care about jets. We don't want any small airplanes. And you go all the way out to Village in the Park. We don't like helicopters. All of them are concerned about noise, emissions, things like that. Then you move down to the FAA. They want to see a competitive bid process. They want to see these facilities used for aeronautical uses. They don't want to see a hotel in the middle of our facility. Consistent, they want us to be consistent with our master plan, airport layout plan, and they want us to be self-sustaining. And then remember, they give us grant funding, but they want us to work towards being self-sufficient as much as we can. Hangar tenants that are in the development, the 4.1 acres, we have 49 existing 40-year-old hangars. Those tenants obviously are worried about not being kicked off the airfield, that they won't have a hangar to put their airplanes in. They want to pay more rental fees or higher rental fees. They like where they are. They got camaraderie with neighbors. And they want the hangars to be as they are. Then Ventura County as a whole, they have a strategic plan focused on fiscal responsibility, economic vitality, reliable infrastructure, diverse workforce, don't want the airport enterprise fund. Again, we don't take dollars from the county's general fund. They won't want us in the future because we can't pay our own way to come to them and say, hey, we need dollars and take those funds away from the county's general fund. And then you talk about the airport tenants adjacent, not those 42, 49 hangar tenants, but the other tenants around. They want everybody kind of paying a fair share. They want new development because that helps reduce or keep lower the shared cost to run these facilities. They have neighbors adjacent to these facilities. They want to continue to do things like EA wants to do Young Eagles and those positive things that are happening currently next to this facility. Jet blast, exhaust concern, noise, access, things like that. So those are all the things we had to put in to our next slide, please. Our criteria. So that's on the left side is the criteria, provides community benefit. That was the highest amount of points out of 100 was that section. Then we, brings new businesses. Again, our tenants, and our economic development folks want to see new businesses coming services to the airport. Project land use is consistent with the airport master plan, ALP, noise studies. Then we looked at developers' financial strength. Then next, the proposed development schedule. Then next, proposed investment amount. And then last, overall qualifications track record. So each you see points, maximum points, total of 100 on the left side. That's the criteria that the 5 airport staff, so it was myself, it was deputy director, Aaron was in that. We had our lease manager, our development manager, and our PIO, Jeanette, that was in that. So those are the rankings you see. And so the way we do rankings is not just straight out points. It's so that somebody doesn't skew the whole ranking. You get a maximum. If you're the number 1 candidate, you get 3 points. The number 2 candidate gets 2 points. The number 3 candidate gets 1 point. So that's what you see in those rankings is those points, cumulative. And that's a ranking. Obviously, the far right was just 1 because that's just Orbic on that 1 parcel. Here's all of the scoring. For Air 7, Legend, Sky Harbor, with 3 interested in the 4.1 acres. At the very bottom, down here, that's why my battery's dead. There's nothing happening. Oh, that's why. Here we go. So down at the very bottom are the points. 3, we had out of the 5 of us, 4 out of 5 had Air 7 ranked number 1. 1 person had them ranked number 2. And then Legend, all 3 of us had Legend at number 3. And then again, Sky Harbor, 4 out of 5 had them number 2. 1 person had them number 1. And then obviously Orbic, the only interested candidate for the 1.9 acre at the top. Well, here's all the points if you want to dive into those. And I'll go to the next. So here's Keith's ugly scribbling. Sorry, apologize. That's the many, many, many hours that I went through going through these proposals. So I'm not going to go through, we're not going to debate, hey, Keith, you should have given one more point over here. That's not how it works. We do this. We're the experts, subject matter experts, taking in again the criteria that we established and the ranking points and ranking each. But I'll just take 3. So let's just take the top one, most on the very top, public community benefit. So I had at least Sky Harbor and Air 7 pretty close. If you went through the ranking or the proposal, you would see Legend didn't do a great job of talking about important things like fly friendly Ventura County, our noise program. They really didn't do a great job of describing that. So that kind of hurt them in this. So you might ask the difference between, for me, again, this is my ranking, my single out of the 5. You go to the next slide. For me, the tiebreaker was the square footage of the development proposals and how that balanced out. What do I mean by that? Our neighbors are very concerned about, again, Old Town, large jet hangar space. So Air 7, they proposed one large hangar, 49,000 square foot. Legend took a different approach, and between the 2 sites, did a couple large hangars, 11,000, and a whole bunch of 4,200 square foot that you could fit jet aircraft in my opinion. So that's, total of 66,000 square foot. Then Sky Harbor, on the 5 acre, the largest parcel, put 2 large 37,000 square foot hangars, total 74,000. So when I compared the square, just the math of how many large airplanes you could park, that's about 50% more. So, and let me be clear, everybody is proposing more space for large aircraft and more space even for smaller aircraft. That goes to what Aaron talked about. One is the forecast and those studies, the demand. We forecast there will be more demand over time, but also that we have obligations to meet that demand. So, it's not a, hey, I've heard from community members, just say no. That's not an option for us. We have an obligation when we took the facility in 1977 and our grant assurances every time we take a new grant that we will accommodate the demand. So for me, again, that was kind of the breaker for me was less parking space for large aircraft between these 2, actually between all of these. Again, Legend had some other challenges in their response. They do add, and that's the balance, 62. We currently have 49 hangars. So both Legend and Air 7 kind of added more hangars than what exists, and that was Sky Harbor fixed the existing 49. So that was an increase there. All right, so let me go back. So that was, kind of the higher ranking for Air 7. Let me go a comparison down the list to show a place where financial developers' financial strength. Clearly for me, Sky Harbor was number 1, 10 out of 10. This is a publicly traded company. They've got a CEO in place, 200 to 300 million in accessible investable dollars. No question in my mind. Number 1, 10 out of 10. Air 7, they have cash reserves. They have an equity partner, Guardian, I think it's management fund. So, to me, that was a 7 out of 10. And then Legend here, all they put was confidential funding source. So I gave them the 2 because that's all the information that they shared. And then I'll go down to where Legend did the best in my mind was proposed development schedule. They did a fairly detailed, Legend did, breakdown, about 48 months, complete all the process. Design, you got the environmental implementation, about 48 months, 10 out of 10, in my opinion. Sky Harbor, a little step down. Environmental, still a little optimistic, 31 months to get the 2 hangars. But probably the biggest concern for me was they waited 30 something months to even start the repairs of the existing hangars. So that didn't make me super excited. And then Air 7, I love their enthusiasm, but to think that in 12 months, you're going to have the small hangars up, and the next year you're going to have large hangars up, completely out of what I've experienced. This is probably, again, a 2, 3, 4 year project between the two facilities, if you're building new on two separate facilities. So again, I'm not looking for a debate, just kind of the mindset, opening up the curtain, being as transparent as we can, kind of the process. And that's, again, for me, it's the ultimate ranking, 3 points, number 1, 2 points, number 2 for Sky Harbor, 1 point for Legend. And then you see the total points, which didn't really matter, but that's how they came out. So you could come up with these numbers. All right. Now to that. So in the RFP is the description of the purpose. Purpose of the RFP is to obtain prescribed information from all the prospective parties in order to select the most qualified applicant who best meets the overall development, community, and economic benefit use financial objectives for development. All right, so that's in the RFP. And then negotiating, so selection process, again, and these will be important as we go through some of the misinformation. After evaluation, written proposals, the oral, it deemed necessary, the airport negotiate lease development terms, top ranked party, negotiation mutually agreed upon, final detailed project scope, terms, conditions. So again, we rank them, determine the number 1 candidate, and then we fine tune the negotiations and we capture that in a lease. That's ultimately what we bring back to the AC, the airport authority, and then finally it's the board that would approve or not approve a lease. So next steps, again, in June 16th, we had the open house, shared the results, the ranking. July, we're doing this tonight and tomorrow, AAC and Camarillo Airport Authority meetings. August, we expect to start negotiations, lease with the truck rate candidates. And November, December, expect to bring draft leases to the airport authority, AAC, and then ultimately to the board of supervisors, December, January. That's kind of the process as we progress. So now I want to get into some of the excitement. Again, a lot of misinformation. Again, folks are jockeying and trying to push their favorite proposal based on the design that was proposed. Everybody I've talked to, and I said, well, I understand that's your favorite, but did you go through the ranking criteria? And their answer is typically no. I like this proposal, this layout, because it suits what I am most interested in. And I understand that. We had the much more difficult process of going through it. So here's some of the rumors and misinformation that are out there. We didn't provide an opportunity for public input. We rushed the process. Again, this has really been a 2-3 year process. Both the ALP update, airport layout plan update, and the noise studies forecast future demand. That was all in that discussion. And then we started in September. Hey, we've received interest in development, and that started with a letter of interest. So we just sent out a letter to all the parties we knew and worked with. Hey, we have somebody interested in these parcels. Is anybody else interested? Because if we got no response other than those 2 that were interested, we could just start negotiations. But because there was other interest, we did the RFP process. So that's what the RFP process, we issued that RFP in December, end of December, 2025. And now we've had public meetings, March, we've had the June meetings, we have this meeting. Again, the next input, public input will be on when we have a draft lease to talk about. Rumor, the airport's focused on expansion. I don't like that word at all for various reasons. Again, the airports is not in the business of expansion. We're in the business of transportation. We're a transportation facility. Any analogies? I got multiple of them, but I'll share a few of them. Caltrans doesn't build more lanes on Highway 101 to expand and bring more cars to Highway 101. They do so because there's a demand. So that's the same thing with airports. If you got in your car right now and drove to Las Vegas, you'd run through this desolate place called Barstow. It's about halfway between here and Las Vegas. They have an airport there. In 1960, they had about 12,000 people. Currently, they have about 25,000 people. So 50% growth in, 60 years, thereabouts. Their airport isn't growing because there's no demand there. Now you move to Camarillo. In 1960, Camarillo, city of Camarillo, had about 2,500 people. Today, 70,000 people. Ventura County in 1960 had about 200,000 people. They now have 830,000 people. It's all of the demand. You look at Camarillo, they didn't have an outlet. They didn't have now a Costco that's going up. There's 3 hotels that are in construction or under design. That's just Camarillo. It's the demand that drives the airport. With not building expansion and then people come, they come here because there's business here, because they have airplanes, they live here. Those are the reasons that the airport, and we're being consistent with our airport master plan, airport layout plan, as they exist. Rumor, preference to a large hangar over small. Again, as you saw in the proposals and breakout, that was in the RFP. If you were proposing to do something different than fix the 49 hangars that existed, you had to replace them on another site. And as you see, 2 of the 3 proposals had actually more GA hangars from 49. Both of them have approximately 62. So they're adding general aviation hangars. And additionally, as the forecast is, the majority of our operations are general aviation and is forecast to remain that way for decades. The other is, there's no opportunity for folks to, if these 49 hangars are taken away and they might be expected higher prices to rent, remember, we have a lot of hangars available that we county operate right now. So currently at Camarillo, we have 160 county. You subtract the 49 from that, we'd have 110 something, 111. But there's also 170 private hangars at Camarillo Airport that folks can purchase and or lease as well. So, total about 300 hangars minus the 49, still 280, 90 hangars available. And then there's hangar space available at Oxnard as well. Rumor developer is going to build the big hangars, never build the smaller. It's in the RFP. Before you touch those existing 49 hangars, you have to have a replacement for them. That's in the RFP, and we would capture that in the lease. You can't do anything with the existing tenants in those hangars until you've provided a replacement option for them. Also means tenants right now, as I mentioned, it's a multi-year typically to replace. They can get on our hangar waiting list and or seek some of the private hangar options as well. Again, rumor trying to bring more jets, the idea to build more, they will come as the analogy I put. That's just not the existence. The other analogy I use is, can you imagine whether you rent an apartment and have a parking spot or you have a house that has a garage? If I told you tomorrow your garage or parking space is going to be 3 miles down the road, you would tell me that's ridiculous. What's the value to me having that? Well, that's the same thing with airplanes and airports. People utilize the airport that is closest to their business, to their home, or the meeting that they're going to. So that's who's coming here. We're not just building and they show up. If you've got a meeting in LA and you're flying across the country, you're not coming to Camarillo to get on Highway 101 and then go drive for 2 hours. You're going to pick Van Nuys or Torrance or Long Beach, a closer airport. The people that are coming here or basing here are because they live here, their company is here, or they're doing business in this county. Let's not forget, you know, this place we live in called California battles Japan for the fourth and fifth largest economy in the world. And this county is number 12 on the list of economies or size population in the 58 counties that are in California. So things are happening. We got obviously a huge ag, we got a military facility, port, pharmaceutical, technology. I mean, all of those things are here in this county. That's what drives the demand for folks that are coming to our airport. Rumor, just say no to future development. As Aaron pointed out in the beginning, it's not a request, it's a requirement by the FAA, both through the deed when we took this facility over in 1977, but also our grant assurance every time we take a new grant dollar. We have to meet that demand. Project brings more jet traffic, specifically kind. Yes, this is some of the information that's out there, that this 4-acre parcel will bring 20. I've seen 20, I've seen 33, I've seen 40 new jets on this 4-acre parcel. So what you see here is all of the businesses at Camarillo Airport highlighted. And you see the one Channel Islands on 9.7 acres, one county hangars, Sky Harbor has 10. Look at those numbers. Those total about 42 jets on all the businesses and all the property at Camarillo. So to say, and that number totals, 40 plus acres, all of those businesses. So to say somehow that 20 or 33 or 40 jets are going to be crammed on a 4-acre parcel, when you look at the existing numbers, is one ridiculous, just flat out. And in my opinion, it's used to inflame our community members, to scare them in trying to push them in a particular direction, which I find, quite frankly, I won't say out loud what I think. But so that's kind of that answer is. And now when you get specifically to Air 7, again, on a 4-acre parcel and talking to them, they have existing demand. So the aircraft they're talking about putting in this facility are already here, and talking with them in deeper conversations most recently, they're expecting, they said this at the public meeting we had on the 16th, that might be 3 to 5 additional jets, not 20, 33, 40. All right. Top ranked plans to immediately turn around and lease, sell the facility. There's been no indication. I've seen some documents that the facility was for sale years ago. That's what I saw pulled up. One is, quite frankly, it's the longest standing company in the 3 that are proposed. I think more than 20 years on the facility. So yes, they were several years ago looking, and talking to them recently, they have no interest or desire to sell. But most importantly, if they did, the protections we have for us and the community, our stakeholders, is we've captured the requirements in the lease. It doesn't matter who takes over the lease. You have to fall under those obligations. Rumor City, Camarillo, citizens not see financial benefit. So I'll go into that detail. This is a slide we presented before. It's an old economic impact study we did in 2019. We expect the numbers to be significantly higher. And we're next year, we'll update this. But you can see the annual impact between, specifically at Camarillo, $230 million, 1,700 jobs, 60 businesses. But I want to point out, because we have new updated numbers, we got this from tax assessor. Most people have no idea that anybody who bases an airplane here at Camarillo, there's a possessor interest tax, meaning the value of your airplane, you pay 1% every year that it's parked and based here. Well, I was even surprised that the total value of all the airplanes at Camarillo right now is just under $1 billion. What does that translate into? That 1%, a little over 1%. That $9.658 million here is divided in thirds, not to the airport, but to the county general fund, to the city of Camarillo, and to the local schools. Every year, that number, and as it grows, it goes up. And that's just one piece of the economic impact. So that's this older number, that's a piece of it. So that's kind of, as we know, it's going to go up. This is from 2019. This is most current, just that one line item. So there is a significant impact. But let me be clear. Our community members that are concerned about noise could care less that $3.2 million goes to the city of Camden. We understand. Hey, that number could be 30 billion. Their concern is noise. We understand that, which is, as Aaron described earlier, why we are investing in all of the things that we're doing to help mitigate noise. We understand. But there is a financial component that does benefit our community, cities, schools, things like that. The rumor airports should have rejected disqualified fatal flaws. We do have county counsel here, Tom Temple, that represents the airport. If there's specific questions, he'd be happy to chime in if you'd like. But the bottom line is there is nothing in the proposal. Again, we requested proposals. It was broadly written. It wasn't very specific. There's folks that say, well, the line says you must. It was purposely broadly written so that you can make proposals, and then we would rank those proposals. We weren't looking to kick folks out on some technicality. That's not the intent here. It's different, and let me be clear, we do RFP processes and development process for things like the runway. That's a very specific RFP, request for qualification process, where we hire a consultant, design what we want in the runway repaving project. 3 inches of asphalt, 6,000 foot runway, 150 foot wide, lights will be replaced, restriping will happen. That's a very specific. And quite frankly, if you have submitted a qualified response, the only thing we care about is the lowest bid. That's not the RFP process we do for vacant land. Why is the airport allowing, I've heard this, unsafe operations, GA? No, we're consistent with airport operations that exist. And here's a diagram to kind of explain that. The claim is, so this is the 5-acre parcel that we shouldn't allow hangar development. But as Aaron pointed out earlier in their slide, this is already slated, designed, approved on the ALP for small hangars. That's how it's designed. But the green, for pilots that know and understand, this is all non-movement area, which means airplanes and vehicles and people share that space on a regular basis. It's only until you get over here, the movement area, that's where air traffic control controls these taxiways, the runway. And to get into this area, you need to talk to the tower first. But again, these non-movement, so vehicles operating with airplanes, that's why we have a permit process. When you want to get access to the airfield, you've got to go through a training and testing, pass that test, that you understand speed limits, cracking your windows in your car, listening for airplanes, looking for airplanes. Airplanes have right of way. All of that's in the training. All right, I've talked enough. And I'm available for questions if you have.
And I'm sorry, just a reminder for remote participants, if you have wished to make a public comment on item 7D, please raise your hand.
We do have a public comment online still.
Yes, we do.
Do we want to hear that comment, please?
Maybe. We're working on it.
Am I online?
Yes, Ms. Sullivan, you have 3 minutes to speak. Your time will begin when you start speaking.
Very well. Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Mark Sullivan. I've been a renter in that same block of hangars since 1987 and a renter continuously on the airport since 1984. As some of the commissioners know, I was in that front row of hangars. And as such, I'm a firsthand witness on the emissions that come out of Air 7 currently. I see the proposal from Air 7 as essentially being the death knell for the EAA, having an MRO 500 feet away from them in that big block of hangars. Let me come back to that in a minute. In the slides that Keith put up, he said that there would be, the RFP said for hangars of similar size. No, it says similar equal size. And that's clearly not what Air 7 came back with. The biggest issue I'm wondering about is Sky Harbor, by definition and by admission, is by far the more financially responsible bidder here. He says, well, there's protection for the county. Yeah, but there's no protection for the GA renters. I'd like to point out that Aaron pointed out the non-discrimination obligation the county has. The county currently rents hangars at 40 cents a square foot. The brand new ones that Aaron built, which are very nice hangars, they're renting at 54 cents a square foot. Under Air 7's proposal, those of us who are unlucky enough to be in that block of hangars will look at a minimum of 75 to 83 cents a square foot with annual increases of 3%, making this, we'll be the black sheep that are paying double what everybody else is paying. Now, you don't have to, you can see the handwriting on the wall. If you have 40 hangars that are paying 54 cents a square foot and 40 that are paying close to 90 cents a square foot, at some point in time, either one goes down or the other goes up. I submit it'll be the latter. I think it's blatant discrimination against us to say our only option is to be moved into hangars with a doubling of more than doubling of the rent. And the point that struck me is that the statement, this has been in the planning works for 2 to 3 years. Nobody told us in that block of hangars, when the new hangars were built in the northeast corner, you better take it or you're going to be looking at paying double what the county tenants are paying. I would say that in any kind of discussions with Air 7, there's got to be some limit on their rent. They're going to have a 50-year monopoly, and there's got to be some linkage to what the county's charging. Otherwise, there's going to be a gross disparity of one block of hangars where the smallest and cheapest airplane will be a Cirrus, and then you'll have the normal renters in the county hangars. I don't think there's a clear example you can come up with of discrimination. Thank you. That's all.
Thank you. Are there any other comments?
No, we do not have any other public comments for item 7D
Okay.
at this time.
Questions or comments from the commission? Yeah, we do have a comment here. Can you come up to the microphone, please? It's important.
Hi, we were out of state for the June 16 meeting. I just want to know if we're able to see that online anywhere.
Yes. It's all available online.
There was an email that if you're on the emailing list, it should be on there with that is available.
It's on the
Right, yeah,
county
okay.
website. There's
I-
the archives.
I got the email. I haven't clicked on the link, but I know that went out.
It is on our website. That's correct. The airport's website.
All right, commission, any
Yeah,
comment?
my only comment was just a very thorough presentation. Appreciate it. Appreciate the transparency was all that you've gone through. And thought it was just a really excellent overview and particularly focused on what you're trying to do, which I commend you for. Thanks.
I would like, first of all, I concur, Keith. That was remarkably transparent. I appreciate that. I want to spend a few minutes just talk about the financial situation because sometimes I think we don't talk about that enough. And I'm going to refer to the budget for next year for Camarillo. So the budget for next year for Camarillo is to bring in about $7.5 million and spend close to $9 million. So we're kind of $1 million upside down already. And then a lot of that revenue comes from non-aviation businesses that are in the business park. They're part of the footprint there because that was in the land that was deeded to us, but they are non-aviation businesses. And if you look at just the aviation piece, it's even more upside down. On top of that, we don't pay for the air traffic controllers. They're paid for by the federal government with federal taxes, and that's at least another $1 million a year to run the airport. And then, as you might have seen in the agenda, and I think was mentioned, we've received $9 million of federal tax money in the form of a grant to repair the runway. And when we take that money, we make an agreement. We sign a contract with the federal government. The contract, which Aaron referred to, has a grant assurance that says the airport shall maintain a fee and rental structure for the facilities and services at the airport, which will make the airport as self-sustaining as possible. And I view that not only as a legal obligation, but a fiduciary responsibility for those of us who sit up there and those who run the airport, that this is an asset of the people of County of Ventura. As the deed said, it was given to the county for the use and the benefit of the public. And that should be our mindset. And I think we should be mindful of our financial situation. If somebody in that situation comes to us and says, you have a 4.1 acre parcel, and I don't think it's at the highest and best use for the people of Ventura County, obviously, not only are we legally obligated to listen, but I think we have a fiduciary responsibility to listen and hear what they have to say and manage this asset optimally for the people of Ventura County. Thank you.
Any further comments from the commission?
Yes, I have several, or 3 or 4 actually. How do you want me to just kind of go down and ask them?
Have at it.
Okay. My first question, Keith, you keep mentioning general aviation and that the airplanes are going to be general aviation airplanes. What definition are you using for general aviation airplanes?
Yeah, that's a fair question. If you ask the FAA, that's anything that's not scheduled commercial airline. So from our perspective, and my perspective, that's, aircraft below 12,005. That's my definition of smaller aircraft. Again, given the proposals and the size of hangars, obviously we have jets that are the micro jets that Cirrus builds. Those are pretty small jet aircraft. Still, in my opinion, that's in a GA category.
The other question I have, you said that Air 7 is going to do or add 62 small hangars. Hangars are classified as T hangars, corporate hangars, there's different classification and sizes. So when you talk about smaller hangars, what are we actually talking about?
Yeah, for the majority of those 62, I think top of my head again, I don't have the proposal in front of me right now. I think they had 16 60 by 60 hangars, and the rest were T hangars in the nature of 1,000 square feet. So 40 something in
Generally speaking, Cessna 172 needs about 1,500 square feet. So we're talking about smaller.
No, it needs 1,000, maybe 800 square feet in a hangar. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, thank you for that clarification. Then it goes up for the turboprops and mid sizes and large cabin and so on. So where do we find the breakdown of the 62 hangars of types? You mentioned there were like 14 or.
Yeah, that's in the proposal. And that's part of the negotiation as we go through. We have currently, as the list kind of showed, varied sizes of hangars available. And we kind of like that. Diversity is a good thing. So those are things we will try to negotiate as we go through. Our focus is not to have too much of one area, but accommodate. Some of the public comments we've had were businesses, small business like flight schools that were interested in a little larger than 1,000 or 1,500, they might be interested in 3,000 square feet or 3,500, 3,600 square feet to do those kinds of things. So those are things, again, as we negotiate the final details in a lease, we would be focused on.
To that point, and I think that part of the problem is the initial proposal, which have those numbers changed, or is it still exactly what it will look like in the proposal, or are you?
Well, again, we
already-
haven't started negotiations, so nothing has changed in the proposal. The rankings were based on the proposals, period.
Okay,
Then we will go, we haven't started that. I think I said in, next month.
so the number that you just quoted, was that the number that was in the proposal? Okay.
I think, can we, if
Yeah,
if
just
we're gonna
make-
comment, can we bring him to the microphone,
I-
please?
And it only comes because I feel like this number will change from the proposal that we received. And I think that's because I do have some concerns based off of the proposal.
Yeah,
And now as it moves, as it evolves, which it sounds like it will, like I said, I have some concerns over what was proposed, what we saw, and then it will change. And so I just kind of want to know where we're at right now.
as
please.
Keith said at the last meeting, he wasn't happy with any of the proposals as they were written. He's looking for some concessions. So we're not looking to push back on anything. We're obviously going to negotiate with the airport.
So the numbers of hangars that may evolve
It,
and in scope and size.
I mean, it's whatever, I mean, we have to negotiate what the airport wants. Obviously, we can't get everything we want,
No,
right?
yeah,
So
right.
it is a mutual understanding.
So the square footage on the hangars and numbers can change.
Again, that's the airport. The
I
airport.
think just some of the stuff that we can get challenged with in the discussion is, I think that's what Keith needs to
So
work
again,
on with the
here-
negotiation.
Here's the problem of being as transparent as we are. Normally RFP, you saw the RFP out. We did an internal ranking. We negotiate the details of a lease. That's what you see. You're in the middle of all of this. Well, we didn't like this and the square footage and the prices. We heard and we know our concerns with our stakeholders. Those are the final details. This doesn't mean that this is a wholesale change of what their proposal is. That would be inappropriate for us to rank this company number one and then say, hey, can you go build us what number three offered? That would be ridiculous. That'd be outside. But tweaking the size and number of hangars, hey, how are you going to help us mitigate the transition for tenants that are paying this rate to the new rate? We know you proposed X, but can we do better than that? Those are the negotiations. Again, everybody saw the proposal. This is the one I like. I can't live with anything else. That's because we were transparent and you don't normally see all of that stuff because we squeeze it all the way down to the best deal we can get. We might do some more tweaks. It's premature. We're talking about sizes, hangars, prices. We're not there yet. We're not in that detail. Only because we open this for transparency to show how the process works.
Yeah, and I've been through this process, not just in Ventura County, but at a couple different airports. And I can confirm that, the proposal is a proposal, and in the negotiations, airports does, it's their responsibility to hear what's going on and then represent that in the lease negotiations. And I can attest that is something not only that has happened that I experienced in Ventura County, but similarly at other airports where the airports does represent not only the interest of the airports and what the obligations are for the airports to meet as written and, as interested in those long-term plans, et cetera, but as well as I think in this process, especially what's being heard from the community, right? The concerns and making sure that those things are addressed. These are long-term leases. So I think the negotiations for those lengths of terms do get pretty particular. And I can assure you again, just from my experiences that, that's a process, right? I don't think it happens overnight and it definitely doesn't fall exactly to what the proposal is, but it gets pretty close. And since there's been so much community input in this, I'm confident that the airports, especially after hearing tonight's presentation, is going to take all that into consideration in those negotiations. And I'm pleased to hear Air 7 and your comments that, you know, it's finding that mutual ground, right? The gives and takes. Neither party is going to be happy with whatever happens here. That's what a negotiation is. And
I would agree. We would have failed if some party said, this is perfect. We got everything we wanted. Given the number of stakeholders and their different desires and interests, that would be impossible. So that's trying to balance all of those desires, and that's what you see here.
Yeah, I prefer to wait till the lease agreement comes down. Until that, you don't really know what's happening. So,
Well, except for, we've seen the RFPs, right? So I get it, but that's what was put out there. And again, I think that was, being my first time going through this on the commission, I was not impressed with, and it sounds like you weren't either, Keith, with the proposals initially.
There's not a proposal I would accept as is. Obviously, I ranked them the highest. But
And
all of them
I think
need
that's been part of the problem.
tweaks. Yeah.
Is that, and even in my own mind of some of the issues that I have. That
Yeah.
again, I'll wait till we see the lease, but again, and just for everybody's, you know, again, highlight the fact that the transparency on this is good. And I think we're trying to do the best we can to be transparent and open. This is a public airport, and I think we're doing due diligence there, which is great. And of course, you do see some of the sausage being made, right? So that, there's that piece, but and you know, I'll reserve judgment until I see the final piece. But I mean, that is kind of our job.
There is
Yeah,
that saying, no good deed goes unpunished. That's this.
Hmm.
Again, what by opening this up is all that misinformation now has stirred up people. And we're not at the end yet, but it's, well, I don't like, you know, it's, well, this was proposed. That's it. We're stuck with this. We haven't got to the end. So in an effort to be transparent, there's been a lot of pain going through open house, trying to answer. We spent 2.5 hours as Aaron talked about, saying, here's what the facts are. And we're still working through the process. We're not even there yet.
And I want to caution us as a commission and even the authority, you know, and the bodies that are kind of are part of this process that, you know, it's not the time probably in these meetings when we get the lease that, you know, to look at, to be involving and saying, we don't like section, whatever, right? That's not going to be the time for us to make those comments. So if I would suggest if you have concerns as a commissioner or otherwise, that you need to get with Keith and express that as a community member and you know, somebody that serves on the advisory, so that those things can maybe be considered during the lease negotiation. Because I don't think we are negotiators of the lease per se. You know, as a role that we have on an advisory. That's what the airports and that's what the staff is hired to do. And I just want to caution ourselves in terms of how much we get into that.
Yeah, you know, the hard part for folks, again, they have, and let's use the hangar tenants impacted, 49 hangar tenants in county hangars on that side. You know, they're looking at, you know, and they're cost conscious. We understand that for the next 10, 20 years, they might be at the airport. Our challenge is we got 40-year-old hangars, and our window for the airport is 50 to 100 years. Theirs is 10 to 20. We're trying to, you know, do we just kick the can down the road? We all know prices can't stay the same forever. It's all of those things we're trying to figure out. Is there a reasonable transition from this price to that price and size options and things like that? So a lot more details to.
Any further comments?
I just want to say thanks for doing that. Excellent presentation on all the misinformation, because I've been doing this research on my own, talking to involved parties as well, and I find there's a lot of stuff going out there. So thank you for doing that.
And Keith, I just want to respond. I understand about the pain, but as somebody I got involved at the airport over noise issues at Oxnard, and that's when the airport was under different leadership. And having leadership who is gonna listen be transparent, suffer through that process is just wonderful. And it's so much better than the alternative. So I know it can be tough for everybody, but I very, very much appreciate that. We all do this as a community and talk to each other and hammer it out and hash it out. And we didn't get everything we wanted as far as noise abatement goes in Oxnard. But we got leadership who listened, who made changes and mitigated the problem and came up with a workable solution. And that's what I think, we should be all about here as a community with this airport.
You mean we're not getting raises, Steve? We're not getting raises?
That's right.
You are, we're doubling your salary. 0 to 0?
Any other comments?
I certainly have some more.
Okay.
Keith, thank you very much for this presentation. Thank you for the daytime conversations we had with answering my questions. I appreciate that. I do have one more question dealing with slide 50 when we talk about the stakeholders.
Go back to it.
My county supervisor asked myself and another person to meet with some concerned citizens over this proposal. And one thing I noticed when you were showing the stakeholders, I didn't see anything with a title that says concerned citizens, anything like that. I just hear you talking about the noise study and the master plan and in the stakeholders.
Well, okay, define for me concerned citizen. You say, I'm sorry, you said you saw nothing with concerned citizen, is that?
Yes,
what you-
the voters in the area type of thing. Their concern is they were unaware that there is a plan to add hangars and development. They somehow missed.
3 years of airport layout plan and noise
Well,
studies?
it's after asking them some questions, they don't consider that meeting with them type of thing. So that's one of the that list right there. That is one of the things that one or two of us I have to deal with a lot of times with talking to some of the people that residents that live in the Old Town area.
Well, what I would offer is maybe not every member, but we had significant attendance for the last 3 years, particularly from Old Town. We even met one-on-one with Save Our Skies Camarillo on a regular basis on various issues, including the criteria evaluation. They were disappointed that it was although it was the highest, 30 points out of 100, they were hoping that it would be 51%, 51 points, or I jokingly said, you'd like it to be 99 points out of 100, I suspect. So we've done a lot of meetings, one-on-ones with community members, concerned citizen. That's why it's the highest point section of this entire criteria.
Thank you for that information, because that allows me to push back with the comment then, knowing that you've met with them.
Well,
I think it says neighbors.
yeah, if you
Okay,
go.
and again, and I think the other thing too on this, and there was some confusion at the last meeting as well. And this is just a representative slide. It doesn't take everything into account. I think it's just more of a metaphor, right, of the scale and taking into account all of the different stakeholders, issues. It's not all inclusive,
No.
but it does. I believe it does say neighbors about.
Even on this timeline, we have in here, our discussion with Save Our Skies just after the RFP, and that was hey, can you increase the ranking? So.
Well, nothing's important in these meetings until it's important, right? So, we've had 0 attendance at some of these meetings by community members. And so there's opportunities and information is there, but it's not, it's not until you want to buy a Honda that you start seeing the Hondas on the road. So.
Yeah, if the question was, did we talk about RFPs when we were in the middle of our ALP study and our noise study? The answer is no. What we talked about is the future demand and that we had to accommodate that. So that's, leading up to RFP, which is this timeline, that goes all the way back to September of last year at these meetings talking about, hey, we've got somebody interested in development. Hey, who wants to tweak? Because that was the November meeting, then was through the authority, wanted to see the option added in the RFP when it went out was not only redevelopment, but fixing those existing hangars. That was tweaked during that and then ultimately released out. So, I mean, a lot of public opportunity for input and thoughts.
I finished all the, before after the, and did excellent job of managing the fair problem. I picked it up, but certainly something all the citizens without it.
Well, I mean, that goes to the desires of our stakeholders, very diverse. Again, our community members would want to see zero change at the airport. No more hangars, no more airplanes. And that is not, because of the grant assurances and the deed trust obligations, that's simply not an option for us.
So are there any further comments? Because I'd like to move on through the agenda. If or for, I appreciate it, Keith. I'm going to echo what Steve said. I'm in the years I've served here, I think we've seen a lot of maturity, not only from my peers on the commission, as far as some of the improvements of the transparencies and the leaderships, to all the things that were mentioned for the efforts to reach out to the community and all those different communication channels. This is just another example. So I echo the other commissioners. Thank you for the presentation. And if there's no further comments, then we'll receive and file. Are there any more
For the
public
record,
comments?
for the record, there were no other public comments on item 70.
Okay, we heard the only one, right?
Correct. Yes.
Yep. So we'll go ahead and receive and file that staff update. And again, thank you very much.
And thank everybody who came tonight. We
Yes.
do appreciate that.
So now we're going to circle back before the director's report. We have item A that was taken off the consent agenda. Am I not allowed? Is that different?
It's done.
Oh, that one died on me?
Done.
It's a long meeting. So item A. Yeah, item A on the lease agenda or on the consent agenda.
Good evening, Chair and Commissioners. I'm Danielle Tarr, the airport's Program and Projects Manager. And for this item, we are asking their staff request that your commission recommend to the Board of Supervisors approval of the plans and specifications for the Camarillo Airport runway 826 rehabilitation project. That includes addendas number 1 and 2. To waive any minor bid irregularities and award a construction contract to Granite Construction Company of Ventura, which was the apparent low bidder for just over 9.2 million, and authorize the Director of Airports or designee to execute the subject contract. And we also need to declare the project categorically exempt for CEQA. And I am available if there's any questions. There is a slide if we wanted to. I'm assuming these will.
No, I guess since I pulled it, I just was, I kind of wanted the public to hear it as well, but they didn't stick around for that. That's okay. But yeah, the number came in obviously much better than it did. I know we've had times in the past where the number came in much worse than anticipated. Is it simply because of scope and scale and the extent of the repair that was ultimately identified was less invasive than anticipated, or are we seeing more competition that's bringing down prices?
So clarification are you indicating just for a difference from a 38 million that was in the
Yes.
ASIP versus
Yes.
the and not just the engineer's estimate that.
Well, and I saw that as well, but it was really the 38 million that
Yeah.
caught my eye. That's where we were working from, and all of a sudden we came in at 9. So
And absolutely, that's a good question. 38 million was the engineer's estimate at the time when really just concept of the project was underway. And that at that time, it was a full reconstruction project. So full depth reconstruction.
As the engineer worked further along in their plans, it became apparent that just a 3-inch mill and fill would still be a structurally viable option. And so that is the plans that we went out to bid with. So it would be a 3-inch mill and fill of the full 6,000 linear feet of the runway, the full width, and it includes some areas that have possible full reconstruction, and then some lighting elements. The engineer's estimate was that we went out to bid with also was estimated to be around 15 million for that scope. And engineers' estimates, are intentionally conservative, I would say. They are developed before the project goes out to bid, and they're using more like published prices and historical data and anticipated market conditions. So once the project is competitively bid, which it was, and in this case, we received 3 very consistent bids that indicate that the market was more favorable than anticipated. So we are asking for, so that the construction cost is 9.2. We received the 14.4 million from the FAA, and that will also include the design costs, administration costs. And so we're looking at a total project cost of just over 11 million.
And I'm sorry, I may be wrong on this. We received 14, but we're not going to need to spend it all. Does we return that then to the FAA? Is that how that works?
That is correct.
Okay. Those were my questions. Thank you so much.
On the completion incentives, I like that fact that they were included in there. Can you kind of highlight over how that works?
Absolutely. So that was part of the bid, is a line item that is automatically included in the contract. So for every day that the contractor completes early, they receive $50,000, up to $250,000. So that is automatically in that 9.2 that we're awarding. If they do not finish prior to 20 days, then they don't receive any of that.
Is there a penalty clause if they go way beyond?
There is. Yes, I think it's around 23,000. I don't have the exact number, around $23,000 per day.
Thank you.
So just simple math. That's a max incentive for 5 days early, right? Just for expectation management. So 20-day closure. If they can open it in 15, that's the maximum in terms of the.
Correct. We backed it into 250 was about what we could afford in a sense. And so we backed the date.
And honestly, it's going to take a certain amount of time anyway. So anything much beyond that is impractical.
Yeah.
I just wanted to add, because it's an important nuance. This is the first time we've done an incentive, but the FAA doesn't allow incentives. So if this incentive is 100% out of pocket for the airport in order to address the cost of shutting a runway down longer. So instead, we could have potentially tried to get a more aggressive schedules. However, that also really skyrockets prices.
Yeah.
And so we sort of found a happy medium where we talked to the FAA, we talked to actually, county council to make sure that we were above board and going down this path. And for something, being a one or a single runway airport, you close the runway, nothing else is happening. And it hurts our businesses, it hurts the airport's revenue as well. And so we were able to find an incentive to be able to do this.
Offered by the airport, like you said, it's kind of important to highlight the fact that this was done for our own tenants, like to kind of encourage minimizing the time.
Correct. I mean, certainly done for our tenants, but also, we thrive with our tenants. So when their businesses are hurting, so it hurts the airport and the airport revenue. So it's important, we're sort of an ecosystem here.
Fuel flow fees, all that stuff stops. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, any other questions?
Nope.
All right, if not, do we have a motion?
And I'm sorry, there's, for the record, there's no public comment for items.
I'm doing bad tonight, bad. Some nights I'm on, some nights I'm off. So sorry. Thank you for keeping me honest on that. Do we have a motion?
I make the motion that we approve item, what are we calling this one?
6A.
6A. 6A.
I second that motion.
As recommended. All right, we have a motion and a second.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Roll call.
Okay, we have Chair Johnston,
Yes.
Vice Chair Kramer,
Yes.
Commissioner Abramson,
Yes.
Commissioner Tanhill,
Yes.
Commissioner Wyatt,
Yes.
Commissioner McCamish,
Yes.
and Commissioner Tabor.
Yes.
Okay, and that motion passes 7-0. Right?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Director's report. Thank you.
Chair and Commissioners, I have just 3 items. I want to report officially that our lease manager, Madeline, is retiring as of tomorrow. And we have concurrently promoted Anna Castro in the back there to your right as our new lease manager. So she's making a transition. There's a little bit of overlap in the last 30 days or so, making that transition. And the last item I would just want to share, Adopt a Pet Day happened on June 6th with Ventura County Animal Shelter, and they had great success, and we wish them the best, but I want to give them a plug every time we can. And that's all I have.
Anna, good luck. No, welcome aboard. Congratulations. I wish Madeline was here to say thank you for her years of service. And I just want to be on record to say thank you. I think she's represented the airports well, and wears that hat to look after the interests of all those parties that were attempted to be represented. So you've got some shoes to fill, and you're walking right into one that's going to be fun for you that we heard about tonight. So you'll do a great job. Thank you. All right. Are there any other comments? We have reports to file, correspondence. If there's no other things to discuss or no other new business,
I'd like to make it, and we adjourn.
that's what I'm looking for.
There you got it.
We have a motion to adjourn. Second.
I'll second.
All right. Have a great evening. Thank you for a good meeting. Appreciate it.